Happy Sabbath, everyone. Hope you had a good week. And I got through it, and somehow I got through this year. I can't believe 2023 and 2024 is coming up. We must be living in the end times because it can't get any further than this. We are certainly close to the coming of the Lord. Is the scripture reading on the screen? Let me get here it is. Okay. Is this working? Okay, so the scripture reading, do we need to go back one? Is it there? There it is. Okay, I'll press it. Okay, Luke 2:7. And she brought forth her firstborn son, Mary, and Jesus Christ, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. As we worship the Lord this morning, I just want to invite each one of us to open our hearts and to hear the voice of God speaking to us as we worship him on this Sabbath morning. Let us put aside all distractions. Can we just say a prayer for 15, 20 seconds? Just invite Jesus into your heart now. Amen. Amen. So, some people believe that there's a lot of things wrong with Christmas, and they have shared those thoughts with me and also with you. For example, Christmas is pagan. It's a pagan holiday. We shouldn't observe it, and so forth and so forth. That is not where we're going this morning. I'm going to share with you another message about what's wrong with Christmas. As I read this book, as I'm reading this book by Kenneth Bailey, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. Okay, Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. And I shared a little bit of this during the Sabbath school time, Bible study time at 9:30. So as Kenneth Bailey, I'll just say this, okay? Kenneth Bailey was a Bible teacher, Bible professor in the Middle East for over 40 years. And he taught the Bible at Christian seminaries at places like Egypt, Lebanon, Jerusalem, and Cyprus. So because he spent most of his life in the Middle East, he was able to absorb the culture and the understanding of the Middle East in terms of the Bible. And so just like I put on and off my glasses, we read the Bible through Western culture. Yes, I may not look Western, but I can live most of my life in Georgia, okay? So that's my culture when I read the Bible. But I'm going to take it off as I read this book by Kenneth Bailey and give me some understanding through a different lens, and that is the Middle Eastern lens of culture. Oh, now I see things a little differently. And so this is what I want to share with you. I'm not here to destroy your previously conception of Christmas. You destroyed my Christmas. It will no longer be the same, Pastor. No. I'm not going to do that. Okay, everything's going to be the same. Okay, but hopefully through this message that we can have a deeper understanding of what exactly the scriptures are speaking to us. We're going to look in Luke 2 and also in Matthew. So when we say Christmas, we can gotta get a picture, an idea in our minds. And isn't this beautiful? Look at this picture here, the golden retriever, fireplace, what a beautiful tree. And then, of course, the stockings, one for each family member. This is not how I grew up, by the way. This is not my Christmas. And then look outside. It's snow-covered trees. This must be Colorado, right? Yeah, it's not a California, it's not brown outside or green because we're getting some rain. So this is our picture of Christmas from a Western view. But when we ask, Middle Easterners, what does, not Christmas, but the birth of Jesus, what kind of picture comes to your mind? It's quite different. Just as what Christmas might mean to someone in Brazil or Southern Africa or China. Their picture of Christmas might look very different, okay? So when we think of the typical understanding of the birth of Jesus, now we're going to move to the actual historical account that we get from the Bible about the birth of Jesus. We see this, right? Postcard, church plays, school plays, nativity, drive-through nativity scenes. What do we see? We see, of course, Joseph, Mary, the Virgin, and baby Jesus lying in a what? A manger, which is a what? A trough, which is a what? Feeding trough for animals, okay? So here are the animals. They were born, Jesus was born in a stable. Key word, okay? Why? Because there was no room for them at the inn. You've got it. You've got the Christmas story down packed in the Western mind. Okay? Here's the star that hovered over, we're trying to get here it is. The Star of Bethlehem, the angels that sang out to the here's the wise men. This is not the shepherds, okay? So, a very crude environment. A stable is what? Where animals are kept. Why? Because there was no room for them at the inn. It was all full, sold out, booked. So this is the picture of the birth of Jesus. Another picture that we get, and I don't know if it's due to time or whatnot, but the Western understanding is that what? Joseph and Mary came into Bethlehem at what time? It had to have been after midnight, right? Because all of the inns were booked up. They came in late, super late. All of the inns were full. And do you have vacancy? No, all of the vacancy signs, no vacancy. And they went to the end of the street in Bethlehem. And finally, they were able to find a place in the stable where the animals are kept, because there's no room for them at the inn. So again, this is a picture that we have received over time and our culture of having plays, skits, whatnot into our Western culture. But as Kenneth Bailey shows from his experience in the Middle East and reading the scriptures and the account we have here in Luke 2, we're going to see that all of this, what we just described, doesn't make sense to a Middle Easterner. You've got things wrong, cowboy. Okay, let me show you. So, Here it is again. Jesus was born in a stable. We all know that. Joseph and Mary couldn't find room at the inn. We know that. It says right there in the scriptures. And we're going to analyze that. Luke 2:7. Why? Because we think that they arrived too late. If you get to the hotel early, you can check in. But if you arrive late, they give your room to someone else. Hotels do that. They overbook, and then if you arrive super late, they send you somewhere else. That's happened to me. Learn by experience. And then Jesus was born on the very night of their arrival in Bethlehem. Knock, knock, knock. Anyone, any vacancy? Oh, okay, get to the stable. The birth of Jesus. Is this right? Am I off on our traditional understanding? Okay. Prophesied. Okay. All right. So let's see here in Luke 2:7, or Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2, verse 3. Let's start at 3, in which we read a little bit in Sabbath school class about Joseph, the stepfather, if you will, of Jesus, baby Jesus. Verse 3, Luke 2:3. So all went to be registered, everyone to his own city. Caesar Augustus said, let's count everyone, census. Verse 4, Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was the house and lineage of who?
David.
Which David? King David. King David. Okay? Joseph was of the house and of the lineage of King David. And so he went to which city? The city of David. Otherwise, AKA, known as Bethlehem. They called it the city of David. I'm going to my heritage. Okay? Now, let's go to verse 5. To be registered with Mary, his betrothed wife, which means engaged, who was with child. They hadn't been together, so, this is very shameful. Okay, very shameful. Verse 6. So it was that while they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger. Okay, there it is. Mary laid Jesus in a manger, and because, here's our key words. Manger, because there was no room for them, where? In the inn. In the inn. We're going to analyze this through the help of Kenneth Bailey and his teachings on this passage, and also the understanding of the Middle Eastern culture. Okay? Middle Eastern culture. Let's see, where are we? We just read Luke 2, verse 7. Whoops. Here we go. The Middle Eastern view of Luke 2 would be this. Joseph would have arrived in Bethlehem, and he would have said, I am Joseph, the son of Heli, the son of Mathat, who is the son of Levi. I am of the tribe of Levi. Okay? So, this is typical how people introduce themselves. Even in Eastern culture, when I go into the Korean culture and I greet someone of older age, I say, hello, my name's Daniel Yim. Oh yeah, but who's your father? And I say my father's name. They'll say, oh yeah, of course I know who you are. Yeah, we went to school together. Here, come sit down. Have something to eat, If they don't know my father, it's like, okay, well, why are you here? What are you doing? So they want to know your ancestry, okay? Middle Eastern culture, very, very heavy on ancestry and your lineage. They knew where they're from, who they are from, okay? And Joseph is from the house of David, okay, which is the city, city of David. When he arrives in Bethlehem, he would be well known. There would be quite some relatives there. He's in his own city. This is my hometown, okay? And that's what happened to me when I went to Incheon, Korea. And I had left when I was 2 years old. And then I walked into my old church where my father used to be a pastor. And then someone, an elderly man from, I was like in this corner of the church, and a man from the other corner looked over and said, hey, you, so-and-so's son. He recognized me as an adult from 2 years old. Doesn't make sense. Okay, so Joseph would have been known and recognized in his own city. And he is of the royal lineage. Okay? Now, here's the other problem with Western view of Luke 2. Mary was pregnant. She was very pregnant. Okay? Middle Eastern culture, and just about every culture around the world, does what with pregnant women? They take care of them. Okay? Oh, no vacancy, sorry. Oh, you're pregnant? Good luck. Try the next. No. Middle Eastern culture gives priority to pregnant women, and they would take care of pregnant women. Mary had relatives. Remember that Mary visited who? Her relative? Elizabeth in the hills of Judea. Bethlehem is in the center of Judea. Her relatives lived nearby, a couple miles away, okay? So had there been no room, like Western minds think, they could have gone to Mary's relatives nearby, specifically Elizabeth's, her cousin, which we believe, okay? So in verse 6, the other problem we see is that Jesus was born on the very night of their arrival. And verse 6 says, so it was while they were there. So they had been there a while before the birth occurred. Joseph would have made preparations. He would have relatives. He would have been taken care of, as well as his betrothed wife, Mary, because of the Middle Eastern culture, because of family, and because just of the fact, even if they didn't have family, remember, Middle Eastern culture does what to strangers? Are they rude and unwelcoming? What did Abraham do to the strangers that walked by that was actually angels? He welcomed them and prepared a feast. And even you go out into the Middle Eastern countryside with the Bedouin shepherds. And Professor Randy Yonker experiences this when he goes out there for excavations. Bedouin shepherds welcome strangers. They put down a tea and you sit and talk. So there's hospitality. There is care, even to strangers, let alone family members. There was adequate time while they were there, is what the scriptures say. Okay, so the issues that Western picture of the birth of Jesus, where did these ideas come from if the Middle Eastern culture does not portray what we had come to understand? Did some Western people insert it? When Western people read the Bible, well, let's make it like this. This is dynamic and exciting. Let's create a movie about the birth of Jesus. And to save time, we don't have time to, make it while they were there in Bethlehem. Let's just cut it short. Okay? So where did the Western concepts of the nativity come into our minds? Well, the Kenneth Bailey here explores one source. 200 years after the birth of Jesus, this writing came about called the Proto-Evangelium of James. It was not written by James. It's an anonymous author, which people at that time would often do. They would write something and they would put a name to it of someone famous. Perhaps James, the brother of John, or James, the brother of Jesus, an early Christian church leader. Okay, it was not written by James. It's anonymous. And it was not written by a Jew. It was not written by someone who understands the topography of the Judean landscape. And so it's out of context. And here in this account, it says that they were traveling to Bethlehem. Mary couldn't wait any longer. They went into a cave. Joseph left to find a midwife. He found one. And as he was coming back to the cave, Mary gave birth. The Eastern Orthodox tradition holds that Mary was alone when Jesus gave birth. She was all alone, okay? So this is the Eastern Orthodox tradition, and this is what is taught here, and that Jesus was born in a cave near Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and that she was alone, and Joseph arrives with the midwife and finds that Jesus was already born. I missed it. I missed the birth of my stepson, okay? And so this is the first instance, first source, 200 years after the birth of Jesus, that Kenneth Bailey notes, where it was the idea was that Jesus was born on the night of arrival. Nowhere else do we see this until this source here. And it's quite early, 200 years is early for us, but it occurred 200 years after the birth of Jesus. This is the first time, once again, where we see that Jesus was born on the night of arrival. Okay, what's next? So, what does Luke 2:7 really mean? Let's look at that again. I need to get on my reading glasses. Put on your Middle Eastern glasses. And she brought forth her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, which is still a custom used today by the Middle Eastern village people that are not in the city and not in the hospital, but village people will wrap their newborns in swaddling cloths. And Mary laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. That's what the Bible says. Isn't that what the Bible says? Isn't that what I understand to be the case? There was no room for them at the inn. The New King James Version, the NASB, by the way, New American Standard Bible, is the most accurate when you translate from the original Hebrew and Greek into English. Anyone looking for a accurate, very close to as close as you can. And the KJV and the ESV all have this phrase Nothing different among these versions. I also like the NLT, New Living Translation. I shared that with John. It's not a accurate translation, but it's a good reading. It's a good for devotional and reading from this version, that version, and that version. I like the NLT. So, there was no room for them at the end. We're going to understand, through the help of this book, what is in and manger. What is in and manger? What comes to your mind when we say in? There was no room for them? Huh? Hotel? Motel 6? There was no room for them. That's why they had to keep going until they ended up in a stable. Okay? So we're going to parse this out and take a closer look. What is in, according to a Middle Eastern mind, according to the Hebrew scriptures? Yeah, so the Western mind says manger is a feeding trough used to probably put hay or whatever for the animals, right? That's okay. That's pretty accurate to the Middle Eastern mind. And then the Western mind is Holiday Inn. See, there it is, the word in. Okay, here is the traditional Middle Eastern home, okay? This is not the wealthy. The wealthy had palaces, guards, servants, chariots. This is the 98 percentile, okay? The 2% are like living like that. The 98 percentile lives like this. They did not have a separate stable or barn for animals. Only the wealthy had that. The typical Middle Eastern home had 2 rooms, one exclusively for guests, such as on the roof or the side of the home, such as Elijah the prophet. It's called the prophet's chamber, okay? The upper room. And the main room was for the family, where they would cook, eat, sleep. They didn't have 3-bedroom house with a family room, living room, garage, the backyard for the, well, let's get to this. So this is the traditional Middle Eastern home, and this is what you can observe even today out in the rural countryside. But when you talk to Middle Eastern people, and think back on Middle Eastern culture back in biblical times, this is the typical home. So a side view of the home, it was square, and on top might have been the guest room, or on the side. Here's the front door, and you go in and you will go up steps to the main living area. Eat, sleep, and play, okay? And this was kind of slanted. It's slanted downward so that you could sweep and water your things downward to here, the entryway. But notice when you look from a top view down, what it looks like. Front door, go up the steps, living room, sweep all the dust and dirt and water down to the what? Why would you keep animals inside your house? That's ridiculous. Well, we do that too today, right? Some of you sleep with your animals. How can you do that? I wish I could do that, but I can't keep. So what are these oval circles? They are the mangers. These are the mangers that the cow, if you had a cow, would get up at night, if they're hungry, would eat. And then down below, they would have maybe a bin for the sheep and goats. But the mangers were up here. And this is a typical Middle Eastern home. In the Middle Eastern mind, when you say manger, oh, yeah, here. This is how we've lived for thousands of years. And this is where we've kept our animals for thousands of years. Why? Why would we keep ox, lamb, goats, chickens in here? Protection from what? Other animals from what? Yes.
Stealing them.
Yes. Theft. I'm hungry. I want to have a steak. They're secured. They're secured. And the steps would be, there would be kind of a block or a gate. So Billy the goat cannot come up. Who knows? Maybe they let the lamb come up so the baby could play with the lamb up here. Who knows? Okay? So this is a typical Middle Eastern home. And the guest room would be where? Either on top or the side. I didn't include it in the picture because I had enough trouble drawing this. The guest room is bonus, okay? So, was it typical to keep animals in the house? Let's look at 1 Samuel and King Saul and the witch of Endor. The witch of Endor, prepared a feast for King Saul and his servants. And she took a fatted calf that was where?
In the house.
In the house. Killed it, prepared it, and fed the King Saul. Okay? So the calf was in the house. This is an interesting story. Judges chapter 11. Okay? Judges chapter 11. And you can go back and try to read it and to grasp the entirety of the story. This is when the warrior Jephthah was going out to war. And he made a vow to God. God, if you give us the victory, I will sacrifice the first thing that comes out of my house. Remember that tragic vow? Okay? And he made a vow, and he goes off to war. They win. God gives them the victory. And when he arrives, what is the first thing to come out of his house? Uh-oh. Did he keep his promise? Yeah. But before he sacrificed her, she went off to the mountains with her friends and spent, I think, 2 months in prayer to mourn her virginity. And then she came home and she said, let it be according to the Lord. So to this day, some Jewish women who want to keep that tradition and memory, they go off for, I think, 3 or 4 days, and they pray in memory of this tragic vow. So the story of this, according to Kenneth Bailey, is that Jephthah, according to a typical Middle Eastern home, would have kept what in the home? Animals. That's typical. And when Jephthah made the vow, he clearly was thinking that what would come out of his house first? What did the Israelites sacrifice to the Lord? Usually a lamb or a goat. If it was a big sacrifice, it would be a cow. This is what he was clearly expecting when he came home, when he made the vow. He was not expecting his daughter. If there were no animals living in the house, would he have made the vow? Of course not. He would be a murderer. Who can I murder in my family next? But he was clearly expecting an animal to come out when he made the vow. But tragically, his daughter came out. That is why it is a tragic vow. So read that story again to encapsulate in your mind what Jephthah probably was thinking when he made the vow. Okay, and then the third one here is very interesting too, and we need to read it very carefully because it's Jesus speaking about the Sabbath and rebuking the Pharisees. Okay, Jesus had just healed in Luke 13 a woman, and he has the key word. Let's go to Luke 13 because the key word here, I think I have it on the screen, but I want to read to you from the script. Luke 13. 10 to 17. Spirit of infirmity. Okay. 12, verse 12. Luke 13, verse 12. Excuse me. But when Jesus saw her, he called to him and said to her, he called her to him, come here, and said to her, Woman, you are what? You are loosed. I untie you. I loose you from your infirmity, from your sickness. And he laid hands on her, and immediately she was made straight. Verse 14, but the ruler of the synagogue answered with indignation. Why? Because Jesus had healed on the Sabbath. So the rulers was, you're breaking the Sabbath. Okay, now the key word here is Jesus loosed her from her infirmity. And so Jesus comes back to the rebuke of the ruler of the Pharisee, and he says to him, verse 15, hypocrite, yeah, does not each one of you on the Sabbath, what? Loose his ox or donkey from the stall and lead it away to water? Yeah. Don't you do that on the Sabbath? Okay? So I have loosed this woman from her infirmity. Don't you loose your animal on the Sabbath? The ruler did not say, oh no, I wouldn't touch an animal on the Sabbath. That was not his response, okay? He said, he was ashamed. Yeah, I do untie my animal from my house on the Sabbath and lead it out to get water. That's they do that, okay? So this is a very interesting story here that Jesus is using the common knowledge that you keep your animals in your house, and on the Sabbath morning, you untie them and lead them out, just like I untied this woman from her infirmities on the Sabbath. So you are the hypocrite, okay? So this is a very interesting one about animals in the house, but loosening the animals in the house, which the Pharisees and the Jews all understood. Yeah, this is what we do on every morning, because we don't want them staying all day in the house on the Sabbath. Okay, notice what the Arabic Bible, remember that before the Greek and Hebrew Bible was translated into English, one of the earliest Bibles is the Arabic Bible. And of course, we know that the Christian missionaries went throughout Arabia and taught the gospel. And when we say Arabs, the Arabs, what's the first thing we come to our mind? Ishmael. But a lot of Americans, the first thing that comes to mind is the terrorists or Muslims. Not all Muslims are, the evil against the Christians. But Christianity first went into Arabia by Paul and other missionaries. So the Arabic Bible has a long and illustrious tradition. And the Arabic Bible translates Luke 13:15 to hypocrite. Does not each one of you on the Sabbath loose his ox or donkey from the manger in the house and take it outside and water it? See, why? Because in the Middle Eastern mind, this makes sense. This is how it happens. But in the Western mind, we don't keep our ox in the house. It's out on the farm. Okay? So this Bible teacher uses a lot of the Arabic Bible and the cultures within the Middle Eastern Arab Christians, Assyrian Christians, and so forth. I did visit a Assyrian Christian church, not for worship, but we just saw one in Chicago and we walked in. Okay, now, what does the word in mean? Okay, Luke uses the word in Luke 2:7. Katalima. Katalima, there is no katalima, so, and this means space or topos. What kind of words do we have in English with topos? Topography, okay, the layout, the space. It means a place to stay. Katalima, it has no reference to room at an inn. Okay, it is referring to like there's no space on my desk because it's messy or whatever. Okay, so this is the Western view, room at the inn, like a commercial Holiday Inn. Luke uses in this passage of the Good Samaritan pandochion. Pando means pan, all, everywhere. And chion means to receive. So Luke uses pandochion in the story of the Good Samaritan, where the Good Samaritan takes the wounded man to an inn, and he tells the innkeeper, please take care of him, and I will pay you to take care of him. Pandochion is a commercial inn where many people come. If Luke wanted to say that for the birth of Jesus, he would have used this word, but Luke used this word, katalima, in Luke 2:7. Luke 10, I'm going to say pandochion. That's a commercial inn where, okay, you stay in room 2, you stay in room 3. Oh, now we're full, no vacancy. That's pandochion. A place to stay is katalima. Katalima. Because there was no space or place for them to stay. So what would that mean? That would mean if the home that Joseph and Mary came to, which was most likely a relative, oh, you're of the lineage of David too? Come on in, stay at my place. Oh, the guest room is full. There's already 10 people in there. Why don't you stay in our room? The main guest room. Not the guest room, the main living room, okay? And then she gave birth. The days came for her to give birth. And then Mary laid Jesus in a manger. So, according to the Middle Eastern mind, using katalima, not pandochion, Jesus was born and placed in the manger, which is in the main living room. Mary was surrounded by other women. The men were asked to leave at the time of the birth. They wrapped Jesus in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger. Jesus and Mary and Joseph were with relatives or close friends, and all care and given to the pregnant mother and a newborn child. This is interesting. I just read the Complete Jewish Bible. You know, when I go use Bible Gateway, you can have all different versions of the Bible. And I read the Complete Jewish Bible, which probably gives us the Middle Eastern Jewish mind. And it says, she wrapped him in cloth and laid him down in the feeding trough because there was what? No space for them. It's not in. It's not Motel 6. There's no space for them in the guest room. So they were in the main living quarters. So, this is not to change our paradigm of the birth of Jesus or to throw away preconceived notions about the birth of Jesus. The other thing that I want to add. I know it's past time, but Christmas is Monday, and I can't come back to this next week. I'll have to wait till next year. The other thing about the Middle Eastern culture and the birth of Jesus is this. The shepherds. The shepherds were unclean, dirty, uneducated, and poor. In fact, they were determined to be unclean by the rabbis. Stay away, okay? Had the shepherds come, first of all, they felt unworthy to come and worship the king because they were like the bottom of the class, right? And had they come and found Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus in the Western mindset, in stables, in this condition, the shepherds would have, according to Middle Eastern culture, said, "Oh, please let our wives come and take you to our home." Yeah, they would have taken care of them. But the shepherds did not do that. They went out with joy, proclaiming and telling others, okay? So they found Joseph, Mary, baby Jesus in a home, in good surroundings, and taken care of, and they worshiped. They felt honored to be with the King of the universe, and they went out and shared that. So, this is not to destroy and change our theological conceptions about the birth of Jesus, but to help us understand deeper, and also to put on different lenses when we read passages and stories in the Bible, that there is another culture that this took place in. And it's very different. Now, what does that mean about the Bible? Does that mean that someone reading the Bible in Western culture cannot understand Jesus and salvation and the gospel? Absolutely not. The Bible can be read and understood by every single person in every single language and every single culture, no matter who you are. Even the Bible and God is known to that tribe in the islands where they have no language and no written language, right? They have been found to know God even though they didn't have the Bible. So it is not necessary that we understand and read the Bible through in Hebrew and Greek, but to understand the Middle Eastern culture and what Western tradition has painted a picture of. Now we can better appreciate the birth of Jesus. Now as we sing, "Away in a Manger," let us better appreciate the birth of Jesus. Let's all stand. Is the bus coming at 1? Okay. Glad you made it to the end. God bless you. Happy Sabbath. Let us stand and sing, "Away in a Manger."